Hello. Well, the battle lines are drawn, and it's this channel and all of you who are facing off against the mighty DVLA and the motor insurance industry. This will be a genuine David and Goliath encounter. Welcome to the Grey Matters War Room. Hello. And welcome to Grey Matters, the channel that promotes the fact that the older generation still matters and has relevance, and which looks at issues that matter to the older generation. Now, in our last video, I had my say about the issues surrounding the DVLA's eye test monopoly and the fact that whilst many motor insurers reduce premiums for drivers in their 70s because they have less claims, they hike them beyond all reason once they hit 79 to 80 years old, often up to 4 times what they were originally paying. So on one hand, we have a DVLA monopoly that reduces consumer choice, that disadvantages probably almost every optician in the UK, and that presents far-reaching logistical problems for many older people because of the distances they have to travel to get the eye tests. On the other hand, we have what might be rampant ageism by motor insurers. I say might be because we don't really know what statistics are available to insurers that aren't available to us. We can only go by the government's classification of older drivers, and that's 70 and up. There is no data I can find for 79 and up, the target ages for when they hike the premiums. Now, maybe the industry has its own statistics for that age group. But given that medical issues with older people such as illness, mental or physical disability accounts for only 11% of all collisions, why the hike? New and young drivers have similar huge premiums, but they are based on clear statistics, and of course they have no driving history that might prove they're safe drivers. Older drivers, on the other hand, have extensive driving history, and if their hiked premiums ignore that and simply raise premiums because of age, then it seems to be reasonable to suspect that age discrimination is in play. Now, lots of you have commented that something has to be done about these issues, or they've commented that someone has to do something. And we could sit around all day and hope that someone in the government would wake up and make an attempt at reforming these two megaliths, or we could draw up our own battle plans and see if we can stir the pot and raise awareness. Awareness of the injustices of two flawed systems, awareness of the strength of feeling amongst our generation, and awareness about the need to reform both the DVLA and the motor insurers. So, how are we going to do this? And what can you do to help? Let's start with the eye test monopoly. This is going to be a 4-pronged attack, and I've already fired the first salvo with the first phase, which is to submit a Freedom of Information request to the DVLA. And I asked for the following: the rationale behind allowing one optician to have a monopoly on eyesight tests, confirmation that accessibility to eye test services was a factor when evaluating the applications, and if it was, what weighting was applied to it. And I also wanted to know how many companies submitted tenders and what the criteria were applied to the selection process. And then I asked for the copies of the minutes of the procurement meetings that made the final decision. Now, the Act covers the provision of information, not documents, but we are allowed to ask for them. I just don't expect to get them. Now, the DVLA has 20 working days to respond, and there is a long list of exemptions that they can use to avoid giving a meaningful response. However, I am trying to get to grips with these rules so that I can challenge them if necessary. Now, the second phase kicks in after we get the responses. That's when we contact the Transport Minister to plead our case for abandoning the monopoly. How that is tackled depends entirely on those DVLA responses, which in all honesty I'm expecting to be far from enlightening, really. The third phase will kick in at the same time, and that's when us and you will contact local MPs and plead the case to them for abandoning the monopoly, obviously. Now, it will be for all of us to write to our MPs, however useless you might think they are. I mean, can you imagine if all our 51,500 subscribers did that? I mean, this wouldn't cause a ripple in Westminster. It would be a flipping tsunami. And to make it easy and as painless as possible, I'll provide a template for you that you can copy and paste into an email if you wish. And I'll even give you the email address format for MPs. At the same time as we do all this, I'll approach the National Pensioners Convention to help with the lobby. Now, that is the oldest and biggest pensioners lobby group in the country with over 3 million members, and they do a hell of a lot of good work for us. And the fourth phase will be to alert the media to the campaign, and if the responses we got from the MPs are negative, then we'll also create a parliamentary petition. And to be honest, that's all we can do at present. And the approach we take and the arguments we put forward hinge ultimately on the DVLA's response to our freedom of information request. So that's the first thing. That's the monopoly that the DVLA has given to one opticians for all the DVLA eye tests. So next we look at the possibility of calling out age discrimination with motor insurers. Now, this will be a war also fought in 4 phases. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Again, the first phase will be a freedom of information request, this time to the Association of British Insurers and the industry regulators, which are the Financial Conduct Authority and the Prudential Regulatory Authority. Now, the ABI is basically a club for insurance companies, but they do state that they seek to ensure the UK has a regulatory framework that provides safety, stability and fairness for customers. The Financial Conduct Authority regulates how these firms behave, and the Prudential Regulatory Authority is part of the Bank of England, and among other things, it promotes the protection of policyholders. So these 3 organisations all have a major part to play in the motor insurance world. Now, the information that will be requested will be what is the rationale behind the massive premium hikes for drivers aged over 79? If that age group is considered to be at a significantly higher risk of collisions, claims or motoring offences, then what is the source and detail of that data? And I'll use that phrase frequently because we have to make sure that there's no ambiguity in what we're asking for. So if the premiums are based solely on collisions, claims and motoring offences data for that age group, does that comprehensively exclude the insured driver's individual collisions, claims and motoring offences history being taken into account? Now, there might be other questions that we've not yet thought of that could be added to that request. Of course, it's always possible that these companies have their own data resources and don't base their premiums on industry-wide statistics, in which case submitting freedom of information requests to all the insurance companies might not be practical. Now, the second phase will kick in after we get the responses, and that's when we contact the insurance ombudsman. The case we present will depend on the result of the FOI requests. And the third and fourth phases will be the same as before, to contact MPs and involve the media. And I have much more research to do, such as investigating how Lloyd's underwriters are involved in this and what information they hold that affect these premiums. I suspect there will be an FOI request heading their way too at some point. Unless the industry shoots the legs out from under us with definitive proof that the over 80s are so dangerous that the excessively high premiums are warranted, this is going to be a long drawn out battle, as it probably will be with the DVLA. And, even if they can prove that the age group is a huge risk, I reckon it would still be worth challenging the cost of those premiums as being disproportionate. And probably at that age, more than at any other, your driving history really matters. And if the insurance companies were to couple that with medical screening, I can see no reason why premiums shouldn't be kept to a realistic level, and those drivers shouldn't keep driving until they shouldn't be. So those are the battle plans. If you've got any other feasible additions, do let me know. But I'll be back next week as usual, but it may be a few weeks before I can update you on this issue. Now don't forget, we love our comments, we love your comments. We've been getting so many over the last few weeks on this subject. We really felt it was time that we did something. You might think, well, this doesn't apply to me at the moment, but it actually does, because you are going to be in this position soon, I guess, depends on your age, but you will be there facing these high premiums as well. So, let's see what we can do as a community to try and stop this happening. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't, because the more subscribers we get, the stronger we are as a channel. And if we do want to try and make the difference occasionally, then it helps to have a good base from which to do it. Also, for the first 7 days of this video, if you can find the hype button, do give it a hype. Some people say they have to swipe right the way across the list of options under the video to find it, but hopefully it'll be there. So in the meantime, please do keep the comments coming and the emails. We do try and read them and respond to as many as we can. But until the next time, which should be next week, here on Grey Matters, thanks a lot and bye for now.